After placing the bottle on the rooftop, he suddenly initiated a roll, sending the bottle off the edge of the roof. Surprisingly, the point where the bottle fell was over 3 meters away from the base of the wall. Dimar realized something was amiss and quickly ran downstairs. During his descent, he communicated with his father and learned that a massive crack had appeared on the wall, extending from the bottom to the top. Even more worrying, the entire building's foundation was trembling incessantly. Dimar, a student studying architecture, discovered through data simulation that the building might not survive another day. Considering the 820 residents living upstairs, he reluctantly took action overnight. "Dad, we need to act quickly. This building might pose a serious safety hazard." Dimar shook his head again. "I don't think reaching the housing bureau chief in time is possible now. We need to go directly to higher authorities to ensure they take timely action." Coincidentally, Dima's mother knew the chief accountant of the mayor's office and quickly made contact. Upon learning that tonight, senior officials were celebrating the female mayor's birthday at a hotel, they decided to walk there directly to expedite matters. Dimar hastily dressed and walked alone in the cold night air, his steps firm as if he were saving 820 lives. However, his good intentions encountered a setback. Upon reaching the hotel, he found government officials gathered under neon lights, the female mayor dancing wildly, her figure bloated. After a dance ended, the mayor's husband took the stage to give a speech, followed by celebrations. With the chief accountant's recommendation, Dimar finally approached the female mayor. Initially impatient, the mayor's demeanor changed abruptly upon hearing about the potential threat to numerous lives, realizing the implications for her political future. She immediately became serious and instructed her subordinates to call in department heads for a meeting. Dimar spoke up, introducing himself and recounting the story. "Where we live, in Area H, is a typical slum. In that dilapidated 32nd apartment, there are over 800 struggling individuals from the lower echelons of society." Dimar pointed to the distant 32nd apartment, continuing, "You know, that kind of abusive man. He's the typical thug. Not only addicted to alcohol, gambling, drugs, but also prone to violence. Once, he flew into a rage over money and ended up scalding himself in a bathroom fight when a steam pipe burst unexpectedly." Dimar added. Just then, the phone rang, with people requesting Dimar to come and repair the steam pipes of the abusive man. When Dimar arrived at the scene, the police were dealing with a domestic violence incident. The woman and her daughter were battered and trembling. The police asked if they should take the abusive man away, but the woman refused because she needed to work to support her family. This showcased the plight of the lower-class populace. Dimar inspected the bathroom and was astonished to find that the pipe rupture had nothing to do with the domestic violence but was due to the cracking of load-bearing walls. He hurried downstairs, only to see cracks appearing throughout the building, the foundation shifting, walls tilting, and even bricks falling. The building was at risk of collapsing at any moment. Dimar went upstairs to inquire with 2 colleagues from the Housing Management Bureau, only to find out that this old building, constructed 38 years ago, was facing serious safety issues. Despite the government allocating funds twice for repairs, all the money was embezzled by the director of the Housing Management Bureau, who only carried out superficial painting work. Even the fire department inspectors were bribed and turned a blind eye to the problems. Dimar decided to speak with the director of the Housing Management Bureau the next day, choosing to remain silent for the time being so as not to alarm the residents. The next day, Dimar discovered that the building might have less than 24 hours of safety left. Worried about the urgency of the situation, he decided to seek help directly from the female mayor. At a birthday celebration, he described the situation in detail to the mayor, emphasizing the urgency. Some leaders were bleary-eyed from drinking, some dismissed the issue lightly, some mocked, and some remained silent. Upon learning of the severity of the situation, the female mayor decided to evacuate the people immediately. However, the director of the Housing Management Bureau refused, claiming there were not enough relocation sites or funds. The fire chief immediately opposed, fearing that the situation would be difficult to control once the problem was exposed. The director of the Housing Management Bureau tried to delay, only to be accused by the fire chief of embezzling repair funds. After a heated argument, other officials also joined in, but the female mayor angrily put an end to their quarrel. It was imperative to ascertain the truth of the situation. She instructed Dima and the two leaders from the Housing Management Bureau to inspect the scene. Upon arriving at apartment 32, Dima first pointed out the cracks in the walls, but the director of the Housing Management Bureau was unconcerned, stating that he had seen them 2 years ago and didn't consider them remarkable. Dima then pointed out the gradually peeling walls, indicating foundation displacement, but the director of the Housing Management Bureau explained it away as soft soil after autumn rain. Unable to convince them, Dima had no choice but to guide them into the apartment. The dimly lit corridors were filled with a foul smell, cluttered with various items, and domestic violence could still be heard. Young people in the hallway were vaping, while inside the rooms, elderly men were drinking and playing cards in a state of decay. They showed no concern for the state of the apartment, and the two directors were speechless in the face of this situation, seemingly unable to understand the hardships of the lower class. They were more inclined to quickly finish the task at hand, lacking a deeper understanding of the true condition of the apartment. Dima pointed out that the building was severely leaning, and the two bureau chiefs exchanged glances, realizing the seriousness of the problem. They hurried back to the hotel to report the situation, leaving everyone shocked upon hearing it. The pressing issue was how to handle the situation at the perilous building. The director of housing management began to complain, accusing the female mayor of taking bribes from developers and insisting on building on unstable ground. The female mayor's face turned pale with anger upon hearing this accusation, and she angrily dismissed Dima, leaving the other senior officials to prepare strategies to address the situation. The female mayor angrily accused half of the funds being used for bribes, exposing the wrongdoings of everyone present. The housing management director embezzled maintenance funds, the health minister hoarded medical supplies, the police chief colluded with the underworld, and the fire chief was inactive. As everyone stood speechless, the bald man stepped in to defuse the situation, stating that blaming each other was pointless, and what was needed now was to focus on finding a solution to deal with the perilous building. Due to the emergency situation, we could only evacuate the residents of the building first and take it step by step. Upon hearing this, the officials began to arrange the necessary work. The chief accountant hurriedly came in, organized the documents for apartment 32, and prepared to destroy them if necessary to prevent investigation from higher authorities. The cost of repairing the houses amounted to $120 million, and to relocate over 800 residents, at least $260 million would be needed. The mayor nearly collapsed upon hearing this, as there was simply no money available. To prevent the situation from escalating, the female mayor halted the busy work of the officials and asked them to wait at the hotel while she negotiated with the developer of apartment 32. The female mayor found the developer and asked if they could borrow 2 unfinished buildings to temporarily accommodate the residents, only needing them for 2 months to alleviate the emergency. However, the developer flatly refused because they had sold off plan, and the houses were already sold before construction began. To maintain their relationship, the developer suggested that the governor take more kickbacks, leaving the female mayor feeling disheartened. The bald man stepped forward, stating that not evacuating the residents was the best solution. The female mayor knew full well that the developer wouldn't provide the houses to the lower-income residents, but she couldn't ignore the lives of over 800 people. In the late-night contemplation, the mayor faced a moral and practical dilemma. Seeing this, the bald man bluntly pointed out, "Do you care about those 800 lives? Or do you only care about your political future?" He brought up past corruption scandals, accusing her of causing chaos in the city's transportation, education, and healthcare, leading to numerous deaths, and questioned whether she cared at that time. The female mayor fell silent, but the bald man persisted, continuing to warn her in a threatening tone to obey orders, or she would lose everything. He hinted that the female mayor should know who her real friends were and whether she wanted a bright future or to become an anonymous secretary. This speech made the female mayor's heart sink, and after glancing at the homeless man beside her, she finally decided to accept the advice of the bald man's husband. In the hotel, Dima and the leaders anxiously awaited news. After a long and exhausting night, Dima worried he might end up being blamed. The head of the housing department sternly interrogated Dima, blaming him for getting involved. Dima firmly retorted, stating that it was about 800 lives at stake. The head, infuriated, lashed out, calling the people in those areas worthless. Dima was left speechless, wondering who should take responsibility for the city's situation. Just then, the police chief intervened, receiving a sudden call from the female mayor. She informed them that the situation had been resolved and the residents of the unsafe buildings were being evacuated and relocated. She instructed Dima and the others to meet at Building 32. However, the direction of the car raised suspicions. The head of the housing department realized the mayor's intentions, believing she wanted to eliminate them to cover up corruption and bribery, creating an illusion of their suicide. Arriving at the riverside, Dima felt fear creeping in, but before anything could happen, a hitman intercepted him, making him start to regret. The head of the housing department pleaded for Dima's release, portraying him as a good person who shouldn't die. Eventually, the hitman agreed to spare Dima but warned him to leave forever and threatened pursuit if the truth were revealed. Dima glanced surprisingly at the head of the housing department and hurriedly fled. He never expected his once disdainful superior to save his life at a critical moment. "Hurry, we need to leave here quickly," Dima urgently told his mother and wife, helping them pack. "What's happening?" his mother and wife asked in alarm. "No time to explain. We have to go," Dima said as they hastily got into the car and sped away. Dima was filled with inner turmoil, but he decided to stay and make a final effort. His wife tried to dissuade him, but he firmly said, "I don't want to become an animal indifferent to others. I need to do what's right." But his wife cried helplessly as she got into the car and left Dima behind. Near Building 32, Dima discovered that the evacuation was not genuine. The mayor shifted blame, while the fire chief and the head of the housing department became scapegoats. Dima decided to disregard everything and went door to door warning residents. "Quickly, leave. This place could collapse at any moment." Dima urgently woke up sleeping people. However, some didn't believe his warnings, taking them as a joke. Dima angrily overturned a table, determined to continue his efforts. After ensuring there was no one left in the building, he silently shed tears, knowing he had done his utmost to do the right thing. The residents of the building gathered downstairs, discussing heatedly, but nobody inquired about the condition of the building or when it might collapse. They all surrounded Dima, questioning why he had deceived them into coming down to the cold. "Why did you trick us into coming here, to this freezing place?" one person asked. Dima, in a panicked and incoherent manner, explained, "We need to leave quickly. The building is about to collapse." Suddenly, Jabber emerged from the crowd, full of rage. He pretended to praise Dima, calling him a hero for saving everyone. Then, he abruptly turned around and punched Dima hard. "You're playing tricks, spreading rumors," Jabber shouted angrily. Others joined in, kicking and punching Dima, trying to drive him away. Even those trying to break up the fight got caught in the melee. Afterward, people dispersed back into the perilous building, leaving Dima trembling on the ground. He had tried his best, but ultimately became the center of a ludicrous farce.